Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, including Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, and Rick and Morty. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hello.
Today, Delaney and I will be discussing the latest episode of Rick and Morty, Look Who's Purging Now, the second-to-last episode in the second season. As always, our Rick and Morty podcasts may not be suitable for younger audiences, much like the show we are discussing. You can check out everything about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. And I'll apologize if you hear any background static. This is Skype's fault, so I can't.
Typical Skype.
Typical Skype. I can't deal with it this time. Usually our audio is very good, I assure you, if you're listening for the first time. So yeah, let's get into. I assure you, yes. So let's get into this episode of Rick and Morty. Look Who's Purging Now. Delaney, what did you think?
I liked it. It was very sassy. I will say I'm not really the biggest fan of this concept. Like, I haven't seen The Purge. When The Purge came out, I was like, I have no desire to watch this movie. I think this idea is stupid. And then I had to deal with that year. People were like, Purge in Louisville. Oh, BT dubs. I'm from Kentucky. That's where I live. So
we can tell. Don't worry.
Oh wow. Okay. Shh. Ignore Dylan. Anyway. So I'm not really a fan of the concept, but it didn't bother me in this setting, I guess. It reminded me more of the movie Zombieland.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which I think mainly is because I've seen Zombieland, so that's what I was thinking of more because I actually haven't seen The Purge. But I liked it. It was funny. I enjoy like torturing Morty. And the B plot was like too meta, almost. Like, we're going to have this plot that no one cares about because no one cares about Jerry, but I don't know. Like, there was a lot, wow. Deep stuff.
Yeah, I mean, going back to your point about The Purge, how can it be such a bad concept if this planet goes to it again after it ends? They go to it twice. It was pretty fun.
I don't know, I liked it, and very typical Morty, oh, there's a pretty girl, and then it just completely backfires on him, just utterly.
Well, I don't know if this was typical Morty. We explore new facets of Morty's character.
We did, yes, but, it all started off very typical Morty.
Yeah. I also have not seen The Purge, but, I don't think you need to. It's just the concept, which they explain in the first 1 minute of the episode, so that's okay. I have complex feelings about this episode.
You're saying mine aren't complex.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying more so than normally I'm like either this was an incredible episode of Rick and Morty or this was not up to snuff. And this is kind of in the middle. So, but it's not in the middle in everything is dulled. It's like it has average humor, average narrative. What's interesting about this one is it excels in some areas and kind of is not great in other areas, and it comes out to this average episode. Like humor wise, I laughed very little in this compared to other episodes of Rick and Morty. Yeah. That being said, it was still very clever and interesting. Narratively,
it wasn't. I don't think it was laugh out loud funny.
It was, yeah, exactly. It was not laugh out loud funny. It was maybe it was very meta the entire episode. They have a lot of fourth wall breaking and just
what fourth wall is there one?
There's none in the show, and lampshading. And they use it to okay effect. The problem is, ideally that lampshading would be done. By lampshading, I mean pointing out a narrative device that you're using or pointing out something else from the show. Ideally, it would be done in a stronger episode because if you lampshade when your episode's not great, then it feels really bad. And we almost get to that, I think. Because this concept, like Delaney said, is not incredible. I mean, it's fine. But it's not. This episode isn't super clever like past episodes of the show, right? So, normally the show takes a sci-fi concept, takes it to its beyond this logical conclusion, and is super interesting. This episode completely doesn't, to an absurd level. This episode completely does not do that. So it's weak in that regard, and it's weak in kind of humor levels, but it's great in character. It's great in narrative. It does not have the B plot problem that the weaker episodes of this show have. And it's also what I just love the character interactions here. It's more so in this episode than maybe any other of this show. I just thought, wow, this is a really realistic portrayal of a super complex real life interaction that I have personally had. So maybe this episode resonated more to me in terms of dialogue and character interactions than maybe any other show normally does. So it's hard. So you can't not like an episode that achieves that for me.
It's true.
But at the same time, it's not super strong, right? I mean, why isn't it super strong? I don't know. What was there's good one-liners, I guess, but there's nothing that I thought was particularly great. And it's like, okay, it doesn't have to be funny, but if it does, it has to be super intelligent and interesting for the show, which it sometimes is. And it wasn't that either. So it kind of falls flat, but excels in areas that I'm not used to Rick and Morty excelling at. So I mean, let's go into specifics, talking about the fourth wall breaking and stuff. That the self-referential humor, I should say that instead of lampshading.
Yes.
That's a more clearly used term, because right in the beginning, we have Rick saying that we're going to go back to basics after a pretty intense mixed bag of a year, which is it's incredibly like self-aware, because that's exactly how I described this season of Rick and Morty.
Yes.
Like, but last episode, we had 8 episodes, and there have been 4 that have been excellent, and then there have been 4 that have been pretty good. And that's literally half and half. So
and the family's been like weirdly involved in all of it.
They have, that's true. Yeah. So okay. So that's the earlier point of the line being that it's just going to be Rick and Morty now, right? That's what Rick is saying before he says back to the basics, just Rick and Morty. After an intense mixed bag, I'm not sure how they're so aware that the season was mixed, like, because obviously they didn't know the fans' reaction when writing this. So it's possible that I'm misreading this, and this was a commentary on season 1. But I thought season 1 was generally considered extremely strong all over.
Yes.
So,
and I mean, they could just be, generic, like, weird things happen, but like it's not like it's been weird for Rick and Morty. Like, this is very typical Rick and Morty things. So
yeah, it's all, so you're saying it could mean mixed bag might not be referring to critical quality reaction, but it's just it fits too perfectly. So yeah, I mean, it's maybe they know when they didn't have a super strong episode. Maybe that's the takeaway, is that they knew.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But then it's like, why?
It's like, why don't you make it better? Exactly. It's not that easy, probably.
Well, I know, but you know what I mean.
It's a lot of times you think that shows aren't aware that they're not great. Episodes of shows aren't aware that they're not great, or shows in general, but maybe they are more than we think. Anyway, that really sets the tone for this episode, because there's like 10 comments like that, and that line I think that line's endearing, but it's also like you're calling it doesn't really work when you're calling yourself out for being not as good as you should be. It doesn't make up for it, No. Like one of my pet peeves in terms of kind of intelligent quote unquote TV shows, of which this is one, and the other type that I think of is Community, of which is heavily related to the show, is that it's really annoying when you're trying to be smart about yourself being about your own show when your own show is not what you want it to be. It's like self-referential humor that doesn't land when the critical quality is not there, in my eyes. It seems like it's just the show thinking it's more smarter than it is. And I also think that's maybe true of all self-referential humor, but it's disguised when it's just genuinely funny.
Yeah.
So this, I don't know. So I had mixed feelings about that line. Like, on one hand, it's kind of crazy how accurately I would say it describes the season. On the other hand, maybe the go-to play is to try to just have a played straight strong episode of the show, which I also think this is an attempt at, right? Back to just Rick and Morty.
Definitely.
Pretty simple concept. Maybe like they're aware that last episode and episode 5 are like not the greatest, so we want to just go back to this very simple thing. I think that is a miscalculation, though, with this show, because the show isn't great because it's simple. It's great because it's crazy, right?
Well, that's the problem anyway. If you assume, like, you can't. I mean, that's part of entertainment. You have to assume what your audience is going to think, but to do it like this isn't necessarily the best route. But I also think the mixed bag is still more in reference to the quality of the B plots, maybe.
It could be. That's pretty specific takeaway,
But I think I'm just focusing more on the back to basics, Rick and Morty, like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're saying the point of it is that we want to go just back to these two.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I think Summer's a wonderful addition, but when we have the whole family, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah. No. When you get the parents, I don't think Summer's nearly the problem. I think it's the parents.
No,
when you get them
Summer's great.
Yeah. It's when you get the parents involved. We've had a mixed bag at best. You know.
Yes, at best.
And
then when you like have that with how meta this B plot was,
yeah,
I think that's probably the big takeaway from that line.
It could be. Another, if Back to Basics refers to kind of the simplicity of plot direction, which you're saying it's not, I'll buy that. But if it is, then this episode goes big with its action and violence, which it doesn't work, I think. No. So.
Well, so we've already had an episode where we were like, we've already like pointed out gratuitous violence.
We just had an episode where we lampshaded the gratuitous violence. Why are we going back to it here?
Like, and this way is even more obvious than before, without even like saying something like blah 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 gratuitous violence. Like it's the purge.
The entire concept is gratuitous violence. That's true. I wonder how this episode would have landed without the previous one. Before it. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, I think, for me, like, when I watched it, I was just like, okay, whatever, like, everyone's dying, whatever. Like, it probably would, like, I mean, obviously I had a reaction to Morty, but, I mean, I think I maybe would have had a stronger reaction to Morty and cared a little bit more if we hadn't just if we hadn't had people being brutally murdered, like, for the past, like, forever.
Yeah. So maybe like the entire thing with Morty's character is supposed to be really striking, and maybe it doesn't land as much because we just had the shocking violence episode before this, and the entire concept of this episode is we saw shocking violence happening before that, right? I can see that. Yeah. I don't think that Morty character weird thing worked super well. It was okay.
It was. Well, I meig it happened for like 2 seconds and they knocked him out. So
yeah, and then they lampshaded at the end.
It didn't have room to breathe.
Yeah, that's the other big self-referential thing at the end. It's remember those candy bars we got in the first act? There's Purging all. Yeah,
that did crack me up.
The first act, so they're literally.
Yeah.
That's
the first act.
Like what show says remembers that thing that happened in the first act, which isn't like I don't think we talk about acts on here. I don't think that's terminology that the average TV viewer uses. So it's just like maybe they can get away with it because most people aren't super familiar with that, but at the same time also they're just very aware of what they're doing. Don't worry, you're the same old Morty, your character is totally protected, right? So
right, which that was funny.
I mean, that would be the big discussion we'd be having right now if that line wasn't there. It's what is up with Morty's character. This is totally out of character for Morty. He's this moral beacon on the show, and he just killed everyone.
but again, the candy bar is actually Purginol free.
And what do you think of that at the end?
Well, one, like, it's hilarious, and it was played for laughs, and then...
Like, I don't know if they're actually commenting on anything. I think it's just, like, an absurd back and forth and...
Yeah, no, it's just, it's one of those, like, it's pretty much, like, the dead bodies in the backyard. It's, oh my god, and then we're never going to talk about it again.
For sure we're never going to talk about it again.
Except maybe, like, 3 episodes from now, and we'll vaguely mention it once, so then it'll never be heard from again.
Well, that was the previous one. I don't know if we'll get into it with this one. Let's get the Doctor Who discussion going earlier.
Yes!
This Purginol thing at the end reminded me, without getting into specifics, because spoilers, of the last episode of Doctor Who. If you go back...
I actually haven't seen, shocker.
Wait, I thought you did... Oh, you didn't watch the ending.
I only watched half of it.
Okay. Well...
Which I watch it after we do this.
Oh, yeah, okay. If you go back and forth on something enough times, then it loses all feeling, is the kind of the relation here.
No, I didn't have to see the whole episode. I know what you're talking about.
I don't know if you do. We'll see. It happens at the end, so I'm not sure. Okay, back to the Doctor Who discussion in a minute, which, of course, this show it's one of its 2 main source material takeaways. I don't know about source material. It's not adaptation.
Like
number
one.
I think even though the show is obviously just Back to the Future, I think Doctor Who is number 1 in terms of...
Yes.
In terms...
Can we talk about the Tic Tacs?
Why?
Because it's literally, it's a jammy Dodger, like it's a cookie. It's literally what that was.
I don't understand the reference.
Okay, whichever episode it is, it's when we get the Skittle Daleks. It's the Daleks are reborn, and there's like an orange
Yeah.
Dalek, and a
Okay.
blue Dalek.
This is part of the Moffat period I've blocked out.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's with one. That's with Winston Churchill, and that's when they go back to World War II.
This isn't selling anyone on watching Doctor Who. The
You're
absurdity
right.
of that. Yeah.
Anyway, but the Daleks, and they're like gonna blow up the TARDIS or whatever, and the Doctor's like, "No, I'm gonna like." He's like, he pulls out. It's a cookie. It's very clearly a cookie. And he's like, I'm gonna blow your ship, whatever. Like, he's like, I'm gonna blow the TARDIS
Yeah.
up and, like, kill us all, whatever. And the Daleks are like, no! And it's a jammy dodger. Like, it's a cookie full of jam, and it
Okay.
just looks like something. And then, so, that's when I said that last night. I was like,
Oh, okay.
Doctor Who, because he pulls out the Tic Tac.
I thought you were referring to something else. There's another Doctor Who thing I want to reference to.
No, there's a lot of Doctor Who
Yeah.
things in all of this.
Okay, I don't know if they're specifically referencing that scene. They could be. I personally have no recollection of that. But that's a very Doctor.
It's one of my favorite scenes. I'm so upset, Dylan.
You're right. It's a very Doctor thing for Rick to do. Is the faking of the weapon.
I'm literally
Yeah.
holding a box of Tic Tacs right now.
Yeah, especially. I mean, that's a classic Dalek thing. But yeah, you have to outwit them instead of brute force them, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. Well, since we're talking Doctor Who, let's skip to the wherever that happens. It's in the beginning, I think. We have to observe, right? He has a policy of
yeah.
the non. Okay, Rick says he's a non-interference policy. That's why they have to watch. They just have to watch up in the sky instead of going down to save Arthricia. And with Arthricia, I don't know. Arthricia, yeah, okay. We'll talk about her in a second. That line is pretty interesting because obviously it's making fun of the fact that Rick always interferes, right? So why are you just taking this one time?
Yes,
Constantly interfering. Why are you suddenly that's kind of, and I think it's kind of a little bit lampshading Rick's behavior in this episode too. Yes. Because Morty goes from the moral to amoral character. Rick kind of becomes the moral character in this episode, which is very odd to see. He seems like,
he stops him and he's like, you can't kill her, and then he like knocks him out and he's like, okay, show me the rich people, which like killing rich people isn't moral, but like it's
moral in that it's like helping the the
helping the
overall
lore.
well-being. It's like, why does Rick interested in that? Why is he interested in? Why is he stopping the violence? Why in the beginning is he disgusted?
Is Rick a utilitarian? Is that what we're supposed to get out of this?
And even in the beginning, he's like, oh, this is worse than I thought it'd be. Let's just leave, right? Yeah. So Rick is kind of off this whole episode. Like they try to rectify the damage they did to Morty's character, but I actually think Rick is. I mean, I don't think it's damage. I think it's like Morty is more of an obvious contradiction. I think this is kind of a nuancing Rick's character a bit, in probably a good way. Yes,
I would agree.
I don't know if it makes sense within the episode, but if you have this facet of Rick's character, I think it makes for a stronger one overall.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk Arthricia, who has been deemed Catgirl along with the rest of these people, but a Catgirl. I thought they were wolf people at first, but I guess they're cats. Yeah. Okay. So also, it's not obvious that all of the people are cat people. I thought they were just random animals, but maybe they're just all cat people.
No, they all like look like cats. Like they look like the Cathar in Star Wars.
Yeah. I appreciate these people not being humanoid. I've complained about that before. We had one randomly humanoid people when it didn't make sense. What do you think? Okay, so Arthricia, she's voiced by someone who I'd never heard of. So that's the answer to our question is who she's voiced by before.
Good.
Chelsea Kane, who I looked in her credits. Usually I can find something in someone's credits that I've seen before, but no. So that's very atypical. What do you think of this character, Arthricia?
I mean, she's just literally like the girl from Zombieland.
She is, what's her face from Zombieland?
I don't, whatever.
The older or the younger one? Yeah.
The older one.
Kind of both, right? Because they're kind of the same.
Kind of both.
Kind of both because they're kind of the same character. Obviously, we're talking about Emma Stone, who I was blanking on. But yeah, I agree. She's kind of a non-entity, right? I mean, she's obviously a very important part of the episode, but they don't do anything super interesting with her.
No, like, and then she betrays them, and it's like, really, like, we all saw this coming.
Well, that was the point of that. I think it was done pretty well. My aunt, I remember, or Nana, I remembered
Yeah,
her.
that was
Yeah,
my Nana.
and that's more kind of weirdness from Rick. He's like, really, you just remembered your Nana now, but then he just goes along with her anyway. Like, why did
Yeah,
he
no,
do that?
that's the most interesting part is that Rick gets shot in the liver. To be
Why
honest.
would he allow? It seems like he's allowing this to happen. Why would he do that?
Well, I think part of it is like kind of. Well, we've also kind of proven that Rick kind of like doesn't want to be alive. So
Oh,
that's been a
interesting,
thing.
interesting. So you think this is part of
But
his self? This is a self-destructive tendency.
it could be, yes. And then also Rick also just generally doesn't care.
Yeah.
So, and also he has the whole like he thinks he's smarter than everyone else. He's probably like, okay, even if this girl like attacks me, like it'll be fine.
Yeah, so
I'll, like,
he's
I'll deal
I,
with it.
I think that's probably true. I think this the
And it could be a mixture of all three of those things.
yeah, those are all good points. Okay, I'll buy it. You've convinced me. The entire thing with killing all the rich people that started this, like that's the part of the episode where we normally see this crazy extension of the plot. But here it's just pretty straightforward. We never see how the straight people are
Yeah.
orchestrating it. We never see any mechanics of how it works. He just goes in there and just murders everyone. And in place of
Yep.
the crazy next plot thing happening, we have
Yeah.
just gratuitous violence. So I think overall that segment of the episode is fairly not successful.
Yeah. Like we got over the whole suit thing. Like they did it once, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then they keep doing it. It's like I'm over it.
You're over the suits.
Yeah, I'm over it. Like I'm over Iron Man. Like I'm over it.
Is Rick a mixture of Iron Man and the Doctor?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good description of his character.
Which is why he's such a jerk, because Tony Stark is a jerk and the Doctor is a jerk, and then like you have just so much jerkiness at once.
The difference is that both the Doctor and Tony Stark, more so the Doctor than Tony Stark, are very moral.
Yes.
But Rick is not. So
No.
you could argue that Rick
He's
overall is moral, but
Well, he's like the anti-Doctor is what Rick is, kind of.
Rick's closer to the Master than the Doctor.
But except not really.
Except not really, because
'Cause, like,
he's
Rick
humanity, you know.
Yeah, like Rick isn't. I mean, you could argue that Rick isn't insane the way the Master is.
I think Rick is closer to our current iteration of the Master, Missy.
Yes,
Like,
I would agree.
Because Missy is more grounded than
yeah,
the
he's
Master
more like
normally
Missy.
is. Yeah, we've lost half our audience from talking about Doctor Who.
Yeah, they're like, what? Okay.
Yeah. So her character, I don't know, she's fine. The most interesting thing they do with her is her rejecting Morty at the end.
Yes.
For sure, that's like the only distinctive thing about her. Is that the whole "I have a boyfriend" thing, and then she just keeps going about it. Not trying to be rude, just
so
don't want to lead you on. Stop repeating it. I took it well the first time.
Yeah, that was great.
So this type of thing is this is the type of thing I don't trust these shows to handle well. Like here, it was fine.
Well, I mean, there wasn't anything to it. Like I've seen this scene 5 bajillion
okay, yeah.
times.
The problem is they're not the whole excuses.
There's not even
you
a
have to
satire.
the whole
of it. Like,
the feminist talking point of which I'm part of is that females have to make these excuses because males don't take "no, I'm not interested in" as an answer, right? That's very
Yeah.
mainstream
like,
at this
they
point.
can only accept it if
There's like another male
Yeah, if
having
they are-
ownership,
yeah.
you know. The problem is what is this episode commentating on this practice? I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's just kind of doing it. It's funny that you like it's funny that like Morty takes it okay and then she just keeps
Yeah.
going anyway. I think that's pretty and it's the way to take it is almost more as anti these excuses types thing, which is not what I would want to see. But at the same time, the show never really comments on anything. It just has things happen.
Yeah.
It's almost South
It just does
Parkian
stuff.
in that regard.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, like that was the only like kind of interesting character moment with her. Other than that, we can, I guess, move on. Let's talk there's other stuff from the A plot, and we'll go back. Let's talk the B plot, which is really well integrated into the A plot. This is the type of thing that the show should be doing, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like I really feel like the problem isn't necessarily the parents, although I do think that they're the worst characters in the show, especially Beth, which is unfortunate. She's just really not that interesting.
I think, well, at least she's not whiny like Jerry.
Well, I'm not saying I personally like Beth better. I just think Jerry is a more like well-established character and stuff.
We have Jerry. Well, yes, Jerry's established as being the most irritating human being on the planet. So,
which is, I don't think that makes him a bad character, though. You know,
he's not like. Well,
I think Beth is the close. I think Beth is the closest thing on the show to a quote-unquote bad character.
Yes, but Jerry is also like irritating.
Of course, he's annoying. You know, like that's his point. That's his existence. But what this episode does well is the entire point of the B plot is them doing something. No,
I won't say good or bad. Jerry is more of a character than Beth.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's one of the problem characters in the show. But
yes.
Yeah. So this episode integrates it well because they're doing something related to the A plot. That doesn't necessarily always have to actually connect, but it's not a 50-50 ratio because the parent interactions are less interesting. It's like a 80-20, and the 20 is related to the 80. It's just really well handled.
I just like it's just so meta. Like the meaningless conversation.
Okay, so there's really two conversations here in this episode that I have literally had, which it's easy for a show to just take a conversation that is pretty typical among all people. But to me, this is harder because these are conversations that are really complex in nature and not something that I think could be easily captured on a show. And the first one is Summer's reaction to Jerry saying, I don't know, what did he even say? You on your phone, right?
He's like, what are you doing? Are you on your phone?
And oh my god, my dad says stuff like that all the time, and I just freak out like Summer does. It just constantly happens, and I've never ranted this eloquently about it, but this captures my feelings on these statements
so good.
very, very well. She said, my choice is to say nothing, be sarcastic, or bark yes like a trained animal. So you're holding me verbally hostage. And like,
I love it.
I don't know. This again, I didn't like laugh out loud at this line while it's happening, but I'm just like super engaged at this, and it's
like it's so great. It's like what we talked about with the show, that like they'll say things that normal people would say, and like they don't play it off as clever. Like the funniest thing you could think of to say, Rick just says it, and it's like not even funny.
I agree with that. Yeah, it just moves on from it very fast.
But then they do things like this, and it's just like, oh my god, they put it into words.
Yes, I have not seen this.
It's incredible.
This is the perfect. I would want to say this.
Play this clip.
Yeah, exactly. I'd want to say this is the perfect teenager thing, except like I'm past that now, and it still applies. It's almost the perfect thing.
It applies always.
I'm wondering, is this like a familial interaction thing, or is this just a general life kind of talking about nothing type thing?
I think it's a general life thing.
Okay.
Because
so you think you have the urge to say this to a friend or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like and I will say I'm guilty of this. Because I'm one of those people that, I can do silence, but like if I'm in a room really long time with somebody and it's quiet, like I have to say something.
I mean, it's also not even obvious that what Jerry said is like a bad thing to say. It's almost it's almost that Summer just can't handle the minute interactions of life, which I totally feel. I totally feel that.
But then it's also just like when like we all have a Jerry in our life. We all do. And like sometimes it's not even the thing; it's just who says it, and it's like, oh my god, Jerry, just go have a life somewhere else.
Interesting.
Like, please
I don't know if for me it's not so much. It's just the person that sets you off. Although I can see that too. I could see that too as another aspect of it.
Yeah. I definitely have that in my life, and it's like if you said something, be fine. But if like somebody else, I'm like, no, like it's the end.
I think it's about different quote unquote power dynamics with different people, and it's not actually power dynamics, but that type of thought process. It's like what's your interactions like with this person, and so if it's someone who like you're enamored to, then if they say you on your phone, you won't react like this, right? But if it's someone who okay, I can see that. So this was just I don't know, rarely does the show wow me like this scene did, and it's for something so simple like that. The other one, I think you won't agree with as much, but it's not agree with. This is just something, a literal conversation that I've had before. Where is it? They're talking about okay, so they're sitting at the end after the non-interference policy, and Rick and Morty. This relates to them being moral characters, amoral characters, and Morty's. It's the your medals in the mail scene, right? Which is a great line on its own. Yeah, that was in the preview for last week too. But they're talking about Rick's like, you don't want to watch this, and And he's like, if there's a video online of someone being decapitated, you don't click on it. And Morty's like, no, why would I? And Rick's like, no, me neither. It would bore me. And so personally, I've just had this conversation many times with my friend Logan, and he is Rick in this, and I'm Morty in this scene. And we have had this exact conversation. He's like, I go on R, watch people die. I'm like, what type of person are you? Like that you would purposely watch people die. But there's many people, I'm not, I say it indignantly in kind of a funny way to him. It's not like I think it's a super morally wrong action. It's kind of a morally neutral action, but I do think it's kind of, it's like, what does that say about your person that you find this entertaining? Oh,
that you actively seek it out.
You actively seek it out. Oh man. Totally. Not only are these realistic interactions, I've almost exactly had these conversations, and I feel like these are not captured in any other media that I've consumed. No other media has just seen people discussing people dying like that.
Well, I haven't had that experience, so I can't relate as much to this conversation. But
yeah,
I do understand and comprehend.
You do understand and comprehend, yeah. So that's my favorite aspect. Assuming that I was making fun of you, I see how it is. So that's
okay. Like, what else? What else would I assume?
Probably nothing. That's fair. So that's my favorite aspect of this episode is these dialogue moments that they have, and they're just so wonderful. What other? I don't even remember what we're talking about. We're talking about the B plot, okay? And so that was the first aspect of the B plot. The second aspect is the Taty Mason stuff, right? I totally didn't.
Jerry is such a sad human being.
Going to admit, this totally went over my head on first viewing. Second viewing, I got it though.
No, I got it. It didn't. I mean, the whole point is that it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense till the stinger, but it also didn't connect for me in the stinger the first time.
No, I was dying during the stinger, like dying.
Second time, I still again not super laugh out loud moment for me, but it was very clever, and I think it was very well handled.
Part of it is you couldn't even understand what they were saying. Like his name, like what are they even talking about? And literally the whole time you're watching that scene, you're like, "Shut up, Jerry! Just shut up!" Like, when she's on the phone and they're dying, like just shut up.
Yeah, exactly. It's obvious now looking back once you understand the joke, which is he thinks Taty Mason is calling because Taty Mason LLC calls him because he can have someone to talk to, right? But like I didn't even necessarily register the name while it was happening. I didn't have any concept of. I thought he was like making up a name based off of what he heard or something like that. So that's a potential execution problem on that front from this show.
Well, it's also a joke too, though, because they're always making references that either aren't
that don't exist. Okay, so that's the thing. You also almost think this is another reference to something that doesn't exist, especially because
I don't get it.
Especially because Rick is like you're saying a name that that no one's ever heard of before on a space phone, right? Yeah. So it's I just because I didn't get it doesn't mean it was bad execution, but I'm saying potentially if other people had this experience, then it might have It was a complex recurring gag here, and I do think overall, even if it takes a second viewing, it's fine. So that was one of the stronger aspects of the episode. I think this running Taty Mason thing. It also is totally Jerry in him paying someone to call him on the phone and talk to him.
Like Jerry, I'm just shaking my head. Jerry, you're just sad, pathetic human being.
The other aspect of the B plot, the last one, is the when Summer and Jerry kind of or reminisce on things and actually are happy with each other again after they have
and then Jerry ruins it and is like, I need some money.
And then Jerry has the money. So I don't even know what to think of this part. So Jerry needing money is like,
I didn't know Summer had a job, or I forgot
I didn't know Summer had a job either, yeah.
Like, did we know this?
I don't know. Maybe it didn't happen this season. It might have been in the first season. So the aspect of this which I like is the just getting along with someone really well after you just don't even want to hear what they're saying, right, type thing. Like, again, I really relate to this with me and my dad, where I can just be fine with him after I just can't handle him saying something basic, right? So I feel like basic, not like basic like slang, so basic? Not the slang version of basic, the literal version meaning of basic. And so I think that's a really realistic portrayal. I don't know what to think of that turning into Jerry wanting money. I feel like do you think that, I feel like a potential negative critical interpretation of that is that it was a forced gag at the end of a genuine moment.
Well, I mean, but at the same time, though, it's like an actual thing, though, like that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I mean, this is just a general ploy, like continuing to make Jerry literally the worst person ever.
So I'm not
So,
sure what's my
and that's the best thing though, is like Jerry isn't even like a bad person. He's just like the worst.
He's the
Like he's
worst
not
in
even
the
like mean or like bad. He's just the worst.
in the slang usage of the worst.
He's
Right?
just like it's like it continues to go back to the weird dreamscape thing where like he's literally a slug. Like he is the human equivalent to a slug. It's just who he is.
That's just who he is. Yeah. So I do think that there's an element here of these Jerry being the worst is tread upon territory already. And we don't need to do that again. But also, you know, I really did enjoy the B plot. It was maybe 4 minutes total. And it integrated well with the A plot, and it featured a really genuine interaction. So I really did like it, and also ended with one of the most clever gags from the episode. So really successful B plot.
The meta-ness.
The meta-ness of
the meta-ness is the most important thing.
So
to
what aspects of the meta-ness? I don't know if we talked about them in the B plot.
Well, it's just like everything with like the meaningless conversations. Like it's this B plot is just the culmination or just the embodiment of Jerry as a person.
Yeah, I don't know if this is meta in like a self-referential way that we were talking about.
Well,
before.
it was in a self-referential, like I mean this might be reading into it more, but like granted that's kind of, I guess that's the idea of meta, is that, you know, like all of the B plots have kind of been meaningless, and then we get these actual meaningless conversation with Jerry and Summer. So I think in that way it was too, like these B plots, like this B plot, like and it's funny too because like the B plots for a while have like not meant anything and they're like useless, but then in this B plot where it's like really useless,
it's the most immediate. Yeah, actually do something relevant.
It actually does something for the A plot.
So okay, yeah. So I don't think they're lampshading anything, but they might be subtly self-referential, is what you're saying. So
perhaps.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think I've sold you.
No, but that's okay. It's I can buy it. I think you're thinking on a deeper level than me for the B plots. That's always appreciated. My reaction overall liked it, and that wasn't sarcastic, by the way. And it was not. And so let's run through. We're running kind of long because we've had great discussion. Yes. Let's run through the rest of the stuff, and then if we hit something we need to talk about, that's fine. Something that stands out to me from the beginning of the episode is Rick talking to the general store guy who comes back. He's like, "Hey, old man, I bet you do some what I don't remember.
I bet you do some bad stuff."
Yeah, some bad stuff. He's like, "Oh, I do some pretty bad. I've done some pretty bad stuff." Yeah, I love his voice in that. It's so great. His
voice is really good.
It was in this.
It made me all like creepy crawly, and like even though it made me feel really uncomfortable, I loved it. Like I was like, yes.
Oh, I don't know who voiced him, but it was great. Yeah,
it just made my skin crawl, and just is perfect.
By the way, I said I didn't know who voiced last week on the podcast, the Spider Woman in Gravity Falls, Chelsea Peretti was who voiced her. By the way, that was incredible. She's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine apparently, and a comedian. Okay, there we go. That's our editorial correction for the day. And what else happened in the beginning? Just the explanation of the purging concept, right?
Also, and then more Doctor Who too. Is that like, we need viper fluid? Let's stop at this random planet.
And you think that's Doctor Who, Ian?
Have you guys evolved enough yet?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I feel like that also works in this show without a...
Well, it's not unlike the Doctor having to refuel the TARDIS every bajillion
That's true. I can buy that, yeah.
Or, like, there was something, too, like, I can't remember now, but, like, granted, I might even be remembering, like, a really old Who episode, like, from, like, the 60s, where it's like, oh, we're out of this, we have to go find it. Like, that's always the thing, so...
Yeah. We talked about, moving through my notes on the episode, we talked about Arthricia shooting Rick.
It was really funny. This is the hardest working liver
in
the galaxy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The universe.
Rick's the hardest working liver in the galaxy is what I put down, yeah.
So good.
That was a great line.
I love it.
Then we talked about the Tic Tacs. Okay, what we didn't talk about is the lighthouse guy and his screenplay.
Oh, man.
So what's the brilliant angle of this is that...
we all know this person won.
No. This is like a fantasy character parody, and he's like, you can use my lighthouse if I tell you my tale. And his tail is just his screenplay that he's written.
So good.
Like, what? Okay, so that was I really appreciated that.
He goes from NPC to like annoying artist.
Yeah, exactly. Turns out this because this planet, I feel like that's also, this entire planet is like, is it a medieval planet? Because it also, like, they also have screenplays and stuff. I feel like there's other aspects of that too. They have they have wiper fluid, but they're medieval planets. That's also.
Yeah, well, it's like a Western town.
It's also kind of Western too, yeah.
Like, it was very, like, when I saw the preview, I was like, is this literally Back to the Future 3? Like, is that all this episode's going to be?
So. Yeah. You can use my lighthouse for beacon sending on the condition that you listen to my tale.
And it's god awful.
And it's, I don't know if it was pretty judgy here. Oh, and another genuine interaction.
I mean, according to Morty.
So here's number 3. The third genuine thing that I got out of this episode is Lighthouse Guy's reaction to Morty's criticisms of his screenplay. I've had this from many people who are like, okay, please, just many. This is not even about anyone specific. This is many people who are like, okay, please criticize my work, and then you criticize them, and then they freak out like that. Totally real thing. And
I mean, I'm someone who does this. I'm aware is a character flaw that I'm working on, but I also know other people who are worse than I am, and I'm just like, chill. Just
don't do it to the extent where you get pushed down your lighthouse, and you'll be fine. Yeah.
As long as I don't get pushed down the stairs and break my neck.
This one less, I don't know, intelligent or not intelligent. It's just this is more of like a superficial, general life interaction thing rather than them somehow nailing some specific complex interaction that I've had. Although this is kind of a not super talked about reaction type thing too. It's
true. Well, it was exaggerated to almost an absurd extent.
I feel like this was kind of exactly what happens. I mean, he very quickly freaks out, but other than that, you know.
I mean, it might just be the voice actor. I don't know. Like, I've never had someone like get that angry that quick.
Get out, yeah.
Yeah, no, like I wouldn't. I've never had anyone kick me out of their lighthouse. Okay, like that hasn't happened.
And then Morty, after he freaks out and pushed down the stairs, you like that? You want me to cut to 3 weeks earlier when you were alive? That was
brutal.
Perfect, yeah.
Savage.
Yeah. What else are we missing? You're just shooting corpses after.
Then he's like, "You just purged, Morty."
Yeah. Well, them using "purge" as a verb this entire time. Yeah.
That was so dumb.
Yeah.
Which is really funny though, given next week's episode. Like Squanchy.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what they do with that. I don't know. The preview for this last week was actually pretty representative of the episode. It was. For the first time in like forever.
Enough. Yeah, for the first time ever.
What else? Rick and Arthricia's dance at the end of that violence scene. I feel like this show goes towards dancing too much as a gag, and I don't know if that works. What did you think that was funny? I don't know. I was just like, what's happening?
I mean, it went on a lot longer than I would have liked, but it was funny at first because it was just very like Rick, like, yeah, let's dance in the blood, like, okay.
Yeah. And then the last thing is the them trying to figure out how the new society works at the end. Was great.
Oh God.
Oh, that's a real job. Oh, and making food is designate a period of time where you can get this hate and rage out of our system. Just happens very fast.
It's really funny because like it happened really quickly, but it just, I don't know.
It's still an absurd concept. Yeah.
When we make fun of society while we're all stuck in society, it's just a fun thing.
It's a fun thing.
It's a fun thing.
Okay, so. I think. Can you think of any other? And then we had the stinger we talked about with Taty Mason, LLC.
Stinger was just amazing.
Can you think of any other specifics you want to get into? I feel like we got everything.
I
think we're good. Yeah. So maybe I'm more positive on this episode now that we talked about it, because like I said, there's a lot of things this episode does which I really like, but also just compare this to the Fard episode, the big 3 for this season. The Fard episode, episode 4 with all the fake family members, and then the Stephen Colbert episode with the battery. By the way, I've seen convergence on that episode as the best of the season by a lot of people.
That makes sense.
The battery episode with that's the same one with the incredible summer beatbot with with Rick's ship.
So, see, that makes sense as being everyone else's favorite. That makes sense for that to be the general favorite.
Yeah, I agree. I understand why it's a general favorite. I still disagree, though. I think
also because literally everyone has they are obsessed with Inception. So.
I mean, the Inception episode in season 1, I love that one. So I am also Inception, genuinely one of my favorite movies. But still,
I mean, I love Inception, but I'm just saying that that's another thing that literally everyone loves Inception. I don't know, to an absurd degree.
We'll see what the consensus is.
And this is coming from someone who references Inception on a daily basis.
I mean, you have to. It's just a verb now and stuff.
I was
much like Purging.
Inception.
Is Purging now going to become a?
I don't want it to. Can it not?
I will now use Purge instead of Kill on a regular basis. Okay.
That's already happened, though. People have already been using Purge like that since Purge.
Well, when it was relevant, when there was the whatever Purge thing happening,
Stop trying to make fetch happen, Dylan.
I will continue to try to make Purge happen. No, I probably won't, but I liked how they used it in this episode. So I don't know. It's like I said. I didn't even finish the point that I was making. I don't think this relates to. I don't think this competes with those top 3 episodes. If you want to say this is as good as episode 1, which I think I would rank number 4, I would be fine with that. I would probably put it as 5, but
I need to go back and rank because there's one of these that we disagree on, and I can't remember which one it is.
Episode 3, I think.
Because there's I just really loved it, and you were like IDK.
Yeah, I mean it was fine. I'd probably go this episode 1, this episode. Than either episode 3 or the other.
I figure we'll have a ranking.
Whatever. The lowest one is episode 5. I think everyone agrees on that one. Show me what you've got. Although that might be the most quotable line from the show.
Show me what you've got. Yeah. The voice acting in that episode, though, is also.
We're always going to say, "Show me what you got." So that's all for this week's podcast. I'm Dylan Hysen, that's Delaney Stovall. You can find all of our stuff on overlyanimated.com. Not all of our stuff, but links to our stuff.
Most of it.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Big, huge thanks to our current patrons, Shayna, Mitch, Cordell, Beatrice, Nate, Andy, and Jamie, a.k.a. Hannah, Fever Mitch, Cordell University, Beatrix Strange, Buzz Lightyear, and Mailman. And
you too can have a cool nickname.
Yeah, you too can have a cool nickname. Patreon.com/overlyanimated. Only one more episode discussion for Rick and Morty. Although, check out, I'm probably going to put up a little video summary thing on YouTube of this to try to connect a YouTube audience more to our podcast audience. That's kind of the intent of that, which will then link to this podcast. Only one more Rick and Morty episode this season, although we'll probably continue Rick and Morty in some fashion. Maybe we could do a season 1 rewatch. I don't know if I told you about that or not yet, that idea.
No.
No? Well, maybe we could do a season... I don't. It doesn't need to be on any. These podcasts do very well listenership wise. There's a lot of Rick and Morty fans, so going back to season 1 might be a good idea. I don't know. We'll see.
We wouldn't have to do all of it. Maybe we could do our favorites. This is Delaney's favorite.
I don't even remember what my favorite is though. So I'm probably just gonna have to watch all of it anyway.
Okay. It's just an idea.
Gosh. No, you're right, because we don't need to do 10 separate podcasts. You're right. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, join us for the season finale next week. Although it may be up later than normal. I'll talk to you about that after this. And
so many surprises.
Surprises, yeah. I mean, because I'm just remembering these things to talk about now.
This never happens.
Look, there's a surprise-filled podcast. And... Actually, no, that was the only ones. And so join us then for last episode. It'll be exciting. Squanchy's back. And they're all dressed up for some reason. Yeah, that was
a wedding.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a wedding.
And Beth says she squanches her family.
Ew, stop saying it. It's gross.
So we'll see where this goes with that. Oh, Squanchy's getting married? Is that the plot? I don't know.
I'm assuming that's what it is.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Maybe I just have marriage on the brain, though, because I know my cousin just got married, so maybe that's what I'm like. It's a wedding!
Did you bring up Squanchy to your cousin?
I wasn't at the wedding, so no.
I mean, if you were, would you have talked about Squanchy? Okay, that wasn't that
Probably
funny.
Not.
That wasn't that funny. That's okay. I apologize. Not for offending, just for the unfunniness of what I was saying. So thanks. We'll see. We'll see
I
you
would have
next.
said it. They would have been like, "Are you okay?"
Also, check out Moonbeam City if you have not. We're podcasting on
Yes.
that probably this week, probably, and that show's pretty good. And
Mayhaps.
you'll probably have your, not you, the audience will probably have our Rick and Morty withdrawal, and Moonbeam City might be a good one to overcome that. So yeah, check that out, and thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.